Sequels, a way for filmmakers and studios to revisit popular franchises and let the audience return to a world full of characters that they love. Usually these come in the form of another movie, but sometimes something special happens and instead we get a full-fledged TV show. These did seem to be a bit more of a thing back in the day, but with the surge of streaming platforms, it seems to be picking up more than ever. So today I've put together a list of TV shows based on movies, some that I grew up on, some that I've never seen before, and we'll be diving in to see which ones not only live up to the movies that they follow, but some that might even surpass them. First up, Timon and Pumbaa. Absolute classics on both fronts here. Obviously, The Lion King is one of the most successful and iconic animated movies of not just my childhood, but I think it's safe to say all time. And while the story obviously revolves around the pride of lions, the real breakouts here are of course the comedic duo Timon and Pumbaa. You know it, I know it, and apparently the studio knew it too, since just a year after the release of The Lion King, they started airing this. And I actually love the way that they set this one up. Sure, they could have just kept it in the same setting as the movie, but instead the series sees the duo travel all over the world and meet new animals that reside in different ecosystems, which I think really helps this one sort of stay fresh, and probably explains why it was able to run for 4 years. It's definitely got a less serious tone to it than the movies, but then again, it would be kind of weird if this was like a melodrama. I loved this one as a kid. It was funny and filled with slapstick humor, and even does a pretty good job on expanding the Lion King universe, with episodes focused on other characters like Simba or Zazu. While I wouldn't go as far as saying this like surpasses the movie, for what it was, I think it was a damn good follow-up. So I'm gonna put it on A tier. Men in Black. I actually never got around to watching this one when I was younger. Like, I probably caught bits and pieces here and there, but don't think I ever sat down to watch a full episode, which is kind of crazy because I did love the movies growing up. I even went as far as to watch the Chris Hemsworth one when that came out, so there's some pretty low standards set here. And right off the bat, I thought that this was going to be following two other agents who just sort of had like similar but distinctly different vibes from Will Smith's J and Tommy Lee Jones's K, since to me, this really didn't feel like them for the most part. Only to find out, yeah, it is the same characters, just doesn't really feel like them. The characters were still likable and fun to watch, but just didn't really feel the same to me. And I think maybe that's the route that they should have gone. Have like another rookie and veteran teamed up, just in the same agency, but not the same characters. Then I think it would have felt more like an expansion of the Men in Black world instead of just like an imitation of it. Because outside of the leads, this one was really fun. It's got some really good humor, it's got some fun action scenes, and the animation's actually really good. All in all, I'd probably throw this on B tier. Hercules. Firstly, banger of a theme song. I watched this one quite a bit as a kid, and going back to it, I can definitely see why. It's fun and full of adventure and humor, just like the movie. However, with the extended runtime of it being a series, the creators are able to dive a lot further into the Greek mythologies, which is honestly really cool to see. It doesn't have much of like an overarching plot outside of Hercules going from zero to hero, but the episodic nature actually tends to work really well for this one, since there's just so many characters and stories in the mythos that they can pull from. And while the show does tend to take itself less seriously than the movie, part of me kind of prefers that. I love the movie, but just looking at this one from like a cartoon standpoint, it's so much fun and just really enjoyable through and through. The new side characters are great, the returning characters feel just like they do in the movie, and since we never got any sequels outside of this, it's fun to get back into the world of a movie that I loved as a kid. I don't think I'd go as far to say like this one's better than the movie, but it does do a great job at keeping us in this world. I'm gonna say A tier. Aladdin. Unfortunately, this one's not really streaming anywhere for some reason, but thankfully my wife is super cool and has a bootleg box set of it. An overlooked benefit of being married? Sometimes you inherit cool things. Created by the same team as the Hercules series, it follows the same sort of format, only this time taking place after the first two movies. And even though we have the same characters as the movie, although with some missing voice actors, they sort of end up feeling like watered down versions of themselves. Not by a lot, but enough where you can definitely tell that there's something a little off here. It's got some interesting stories and premises throughout, and some genuinely funny moments, especially when it comes to the genie. But maybe it's due to the fact that I love the movies. That's right, plural, movies. But this one just doesn't really give me the same feeling I have when I watch those. While the Hercules series sort of feels like it's fleshing out this world, this one just sort of feels like it exists. Granted, it is the same world if you count the crossover episode, which we'll talk about some other time. This is a fine show. It's not bad or anything. I liked it as a kid, but I honestly don't think it lives up to the movies that well. I'd probably put it on C tier. Beetlejuice. Another one that never really crossed my radar, but I like the original movie and I've seen it tons of times, so I figured it was worth it to give this one a shot. And really, it was just sort of alright. Not bad or anything, but I didn't really love the interpretation here. I know there was sort of like a boom around this time of taking movies that weren't really aimed at kids and turning them into cartoons, but maybe there shouldn't have been. As a cartoon, it wasn't really bad or anything. It's pretty zany and wacky with lots of puns and jokes while maintaining a decently spooky vibe. But as a continuation of the movie, I think it misses the mark by quite a bit. And honestly, the fact that Beetlejuice is more like Lydia's spooky best friend, where in the movie he literally tries to force her into marrying him, it's just kind of a weird juxtaposition here. This is like if they made a Five Nights at Freddy's cartoon where the kid befriends the animatronics and goes on wacky adventures with them. It's just kind of a weird premise. I'd probably put this on C tier. The Real Ghostbusters. Pretty similar to the Beetlejuice series, where it takes a movie that's not really skewed towards a younger audience and tries to make it for them. But I do think that the cartoon format fits this one just a bit better. Sure, there's not as many adult jokes as the movies, but I actually enjoyed this one quite a decent amount and probably would have liked it as a kid. The premise definitely suits a cartoon like this pretty well, with the team busting different ghosts each episode, almost giving this one like a Scooby-Doo sort of vibe, just with slightly more grotesque looking creatures. There's no doubt that it's set in the same world, the characters feel pretty similar to what they are in the movies, and it's a decently fun way to expand on that universe. I'd say this one's a solid B tier. Lilo and Stitch the series. While some of these series feel like the studio's sort of being like, how can we get more money out of this IP? This is one of the few that feels like it was sort of always the plan. And while I'm not 100% sure if that's the case or not, they really implant the idea of the show so well in the movie, with Stitch being experiment number 626. And since the show revolves around them finding the other experiments, that's 625 opportunities for an episode right there. Not that I think they were planning on running that many episodes, since that would be sort of insane for a Disney Channel show. The fact that they could gives this one a really good reason to exist. But even outside of that, it just feels right at home next to the original movie. All of the characters feel the same, it's got the same overall vibe to it, and I think maybe the only thing that doesn't feel exactly the same is the art style, which is just a little more watered down, but probably due to budget. Outside of that though, this is a near perfect continuation. I'm going with an S tier. The Emperor's New School. The Emperor's New Groove was sort of like lightning in a bottle. After a troubled production, Disney manages to get out this buddy comedy after completely scrapping the original story. And the weirdest thing about it is just how damn well it worked. Like, this movie is so good, it's probably in my top 5 Disney movies of all time. So when they had the idea to follow it up with a series, they could have gone tons of different routes with it. So it is kind of strange that they settled on like a high school setting. Like, I get it, it's sort of aimed at like the younger audience, but I was pretty sure all the characters were adults in the movie, and this is a follow-up to that. I might be wrong. I don't know. And while the series doesn't tend to capture the exact same magic that the movie seemed to, it's still a genuinely fun show. The humor hits, the characters still feel relatively the same, even if some of the voices are a bit off.
Crunk, is there a reason you stopped by?
You mean to tell me John Goodman didn't want to play a side character in a Disney Channel show? What, was he too busy being a criminally underrated character actor? Come on. And even though I'm fairly certain that the characters were all adults in the movie, putting them in a school setting does give them lots of room for fun and relatable plotlines. I think this one was pretty underrated, and while I'm not about to go out and find a DVD box set or anything, I think this was a pretty fun out-of-pocket successor to a really fun out-of-pocket movie. I'd probably put this on B tier. Ozzy and Drix. Now, coming off the heels of Osmosis Jones, this one already had some pretty interesting setups going for it, following a white blood cell and a cold pill as they fight to keep the body that they're occupying safe. The series sees the duo be transferred from gross middle-aged Frank, played by Bill Murray in the movie, to a young kid named Hector, which gives them a whole new world/body to defend and take care of. And really, it's just such a fun and interesting idea for a series that I really wish we ended up getting more out of this. Because while I did love the original movie as a kid, I think this is a case of the series just having a lot more leg room to really expand on the characters and the world/person that they reside in. I think I'd even go as far as saying that I like this better than the movie, and I wish we would have gotten more of it. I'm gonna put it on S tier. Clerks, the animated series. How do you follow up one of the most successful indie films of all time, one focused on adult situations and jokes, with a cartoon, of course? While this definitely isn't the weirdest thing that Kevin Smith has made, looking at you, Tusk, it is a bit out there, following the lives of slackers Dante and Randall, the titular clerks. except instead of focusing on the existential dread that comes with working retail and the human condition of navigating your 20s, this series decides to lean into the cartoon aspect and crank the silliness up to 11, with insane scenarios and a cartoonishly evil villain, but for some reason it just works so well. It feels like a complete love letter to not only the original movie, but to the medium of animation and cartoons as a whole. Would I say this is as good as the movie? Maybe. I think just sort of in an entirely different way. It's a different beast, and as much as I enjoy both of the sequels, Clerks 2 and 3, I think even though this feels like it takes place in an almost entirely different universe, at the same time it feels to me like it captures that same raw energy and vibe that the original movie has. This show is hilarious, and if you're a fan of Smith's work or just cartoons in general, I think it's worth your time. While I don't think I'd call this better than the original Clerks, I think it's the best follow-up that we got, even if it's completely unhinged. Solid A tier. Spaceballs, the animated series. Okay, another cartoon based off a successful comedy movie. Based on the last one, this should be pretty good, right? No, not right. Honestly, with the sequel coming out pretty soon, this one sets the bar for follow-ups pretty damn low for the series. It's a flash animated attempt at using the brand recognition of Spaceballs to basically parody other movies, with it really having very little to do with Spaceballs itself. And this was in 2008, so they'd already had the prequel series from Star Wars and a couple TV shows that they could have parodied for this, but instead for some reason decided to use it to make fun of films like Spider-Man or Pirates of the Caribbean, which is fine, like all's fair in parody. But it would have helped if it was actually funny. I love Mel Brooks, almost everything that he's done is gold, but this is the exception there. This one's pretty damn rough. Mostly gross out gags and lowbrow humor that just really cheapens this already extremely cheap looking show. This feels more like those YouTube parody videos that you would see, like Dragon Ball P. But honestly, I think I'd rather watch that. This one is really rough, and I hope that the new sequel helps us forget this one just as a whole. Going on D tier. 101 Dalmatians. A series taking inspiration from not only the classic animated movie, but from the live-action movies of the 90s as well. Sort of taking the best of both and merging them into one shared universe. And while I like the original animated movie as a kid, I probably only watched it a handful of times. This, on the other hand, this was in constant rotation for me. And listen, the original is iconic, it's a classic, I respect it, but I like this one more. It's fun and silly and feels more akin to something like Rugrats or Cat Dog. And honestly, I think it's really smart that they narrowed the focus down onto 3 main dogs, instead of somehow trying to have a cast of over 100, which probably wouldn't have worked. But by modernizing the setting, shrinking the focus to a few characters, and upping the silliness, it made this one really enjoyable. So I can totally see why I love this one as a kid. So I'm gonna be a little bold here and say, I think this one is better than the movie. I think I'm going to put this one on S tier. The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. This was kind of like my first real experience with this phenomenon as a kid. A lot of the others on this list were like already airing by the time I was conscious enough to know the difference between TV and movies. Jimmy Neutron, however, I remember going and seeing it in theaters as a kid and loving the movie. It was funny and exciting. It had Aaron Carter dropping bangers for the soundtrack. I was all about this movie. So imagine my surprise when I'm tuned into the Kids' Choice Awards, as one is, and right after it they start airing the first episode of a TV show based on a movie that I loved, and I was hooked ever since. And as I said, I loved the movie, but I don't think even half as much as I loved the show. The movie was great, don't get me wrong, but the way that the show is able to actually flesh out the characters over its lifespan, the tightly written humor, the creative gadgets and scenarios, I think this just like surpasses the movie tenfold. This is a definite S tier. Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. The good Buzz Lightyear focused spinoff, at least according to some people. Which is me, I'm some people. I was a pretty big fan of Toy Story growing up, and while I think most of the sequels have been good to great, it's really a shame that we never got more out of like this leg of that universe. I love this series so much as a kid. It's exciting and funny, and all of the new characters are just so well crafted and entertaining. And let me say, I didn't hate the Lightyear movie that came out a few years back. I thought it was fine. But can you imagine if we got an adaptation of this instead of whatever they were trying to do? If you had a Pixar-style trailer with some of the iconic characters from the show like Mira Nova, Booster, or XR, that movie would have done record numbers. I know I would have been there opening day. I love this show so much, and it's a bummer that it's so overlooked when it comes to the franchise as a whole. That being said, I don't think I'd call this better than the original movie, but it's a damn good follow-up. Solid A tier. And there you have it, my ranking of what shows I think lived up to the movies that they're based on. Did you watch any of these shows or movies as a kid? Or did I miss any that you would add to the list? Let me know. If you like the video, like and subscribe, and stay tuned after for the premiere episode of Manham, the animated series. It will only last one season, but will live in the back of your mind for the rest of your life. I wonder who's gonna voice me. God damn it. Thanks for watching.